How do peacetime older veterans that served a really, really long time ago reach 100%? That's the question I'm going to answer head on. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And yes, this does get a little complicated, so you're going to need to follow along here. Now, to be service connected, we know we need the big three: evidence from service, current and chronic diagnosis, and a nexus. But if you're submitting a claim going back 10, 20, 30, sometimes even 40 plus years, there is a hidden fourth criteria that everyone seems to forget about, and I'm going to cover this towards the end. That part is going to be absolutely critical, especially for this group of veterans. So if you are going for a claim that is directly caused by military service, you must have evidence from service. You have to. That's not an opinion. That is a fact. In 30 CFR, you need evidence from service, point blank. That evidence is either medical evidence, which is going to make your life a whole lot easier, or it's evidence other than medical. Now, most veterans fall in this category, and let me tell you straight up. Today, it's not cool to go to medical, and back in the day, it really wasn't cool to go to medical. So most veterans actually don't have hardcore, like a diagnosis from service. Most veterans do not have that for most claims. If they do, their life is super easy, okay? Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this one. If you're an older veteran and you do not have evidence in your record, you are fighting a very steep uphill battle. And you need to understand why that is, so that way your mindset, your framework is right from the beginning. So does this mean you should give up? No, it does not. And I'd appreciate it if other people would stop saying that I've said that. I have not said that. That's a ridiculous statement. It's a stupid statement. If you're saying that, you're also stupid. But what it does mean is that the burden of submitting an evidence-based claim up front really, really matters. And that burden is really, really heavy on that veteran. And that's an argument that I will die on. Now, I know someone's going to say buddy letters this and buddy letters that, which are great. Buddy letters are fine evidence. However, do not give too much credit to a buddy letter. If a buddy letter is the sole piece of evidence that you have, you're going to be denied. You can say, hey, my back hurts. I got this buddy letter that says I complained in 1982, and I'm telling you right now that claim's going to be denied, okay? Buddy letters are good, but they're not the cream of the crop. That's not going to push your claim over the line. And I would argue that buddy letters are just a big fat no when it comes to service connection. Is it good additional evidence? Yes. Is it evidence in lieu of? That argument is no. Now, event-based letters, those are different. I'm talking about direct service connection for back, musculoskeletal conditions, other things like that. There are other avenues of service connection like secondary claims, and most veterans, especially from this era, fall into the secondary category. Assuming you already have things service connected, yes, a nexus letter for these veterans are going to go a really long way, but you still need the evidence, not from service. Now you need the evidence of this disability stemming from whatever service connected. That's what makes it secondary. By the way, if you need help writing buddy letters or personal statements or even nexus letters, you need to check out VeteranAI. I'm going to leave a link down below to a lifetime membership, and these lifetimes will not be available forever. They're going to stop giving out lifetime memberships. So if you're thinking about it, you should absolutely hop on this wagon here. But you need evidence from service. And then the second issue is going to be a current and chronic diagnosis. If you do not have a diagnosis, you simply do not have a claim. I don't care who you are. I don't care what company you use. If you don't have a diagnosis, you have no claim. It's denied. I cannot tell you, I just can't express. If you saw my email in my Discord DMs, I cannot tell you the amount of older veterans that have sent me stuff and their claims come back denied because they do not have a diagnosis. I don't care if you're claiming direct, secondary, aggravation. You have to have a diagnosis. It's got to be current. It's got to be chronic. Go get diagnosed. That's pretty much all I can say there. Now, that third criteria is the nexus. And the nexus direct to service is going to need another criteria. That's number 4. And I'll cover that here in a second. But a Nexus secondary in these cases are probably easier, especially if the veteran does not have any evidence from service. Secondary might be the way to go. Now, this hidden fourth criteria that I've mentioned a few times is continuity of symptoms. Yes, this matters. Yes, your C&P examiner is going to look for continuity of care or continuity of symptoms, and they're going to want to see the evidence all the way from 1985 to 86, 87, 88, all the way to 2025 and say, hey, did this veteran complain at all? Was this disability persistent? If that answer is no, they're not going to make the Nexus, even if you have evidence from service. So you have to have that fourth criteria, and that really matters to that older crowd, okay? Older crowd, I would say, is anything pre-2001 and certainly in the 80s, all right? Now, Vietnam era kind of gets a easy plug there because like your fear-based PTSD claims, your Agent Orange from PACT Act, those are going to go super, super easy, relatively easy to what we're talking about. Now, let me tell you a story that happened just last week. This is what prompted the video I made about how I got 100%. I'm speaking to them and they want to submit a claim for a lower back, right? I'm like, hey, no problem. I can help you do that. What is your evidence of your back? And I found out that the veteran had absolutely nothing. Zero, zilch, not a mention, not even responsibilities or duties that would put him in a position where their back could have been injured on service. They had nothing. Now, this veteran did serve in the 80s. I think he got out in 1986. So he's definitely an older veteran. He served 1 4-year service in the Marine Corps. I'm not going to tell you what his MOS is because people are going to get mad, but his medical evidence and his evidence other than medical was nothing. I said, okay, no big deal, right? Before we move on to secondary, talk to me about your healthcare from 1986 all the way to right now, this morning. What does that look like? Again, nothing from 1986 all the way until last year. Last year, he did go see the doctor about his back. And I'm like, okay, well, continuity of symptoms is not there. But then I asked him, well, what prompted you to go see the doctor last year about your back? And I wish I was making this up, but I'm not. The veteran got in a car accident and he broke his back last year. That sucks, okay? But in his mind, he wanted to submit a claim for his back that obviously was injured in this car wreck that happened last year and had nothing to do with service. And so I'm telling, food for thought here, not everything that's wrong with you came from service. That's the truth. People get really mad when I say that, but that's the truth. The question is, so in the previous video, I talked about my mom, not my grandmother. My mom has back pain in her 50s, and she never served in the military. Guess who else has back pain? Every other 50-year-old. That's a statement I made. Here's why it matters to you. The question isn't, do you have back pain? The diagnosis is going to confirm that. That's easy. The question is, how is your back pain linked to your military service? That's the burden that falls on veterans, and that burden gets heavier the longer time goes. That's why it's important for the older crowd to really understand submitting evidence with your claim. That piece is critical there, okay? It's critical. Do not forget that piece. So if you fall in that category, instead of looking at the big three, you really need to look at the big four, all right? Let's say the scenario I just explained, the veteran didn't see medical in service, but when he got out, he had a current back diagnosis a few months after service. We can work with that. That we can work with. What we can't work with is nothing. And hey, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a C&P examiner, but I can tell you that if you broke his back on a car wreck and that was the only and first time he complained about his back's probably not caused by military service. So swallow that pill, pull your britches up, stop complaining, and submit your evidence-based claims. I'm serious.